I'm absolutely loving
Tom,
that green shirt that you're wearing there, David.
Thank you. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tom, I've got a question for you, and I want you to think about the answer before you answer me. I want you to give the question some deliberation before you just answer it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Tom, would you ever go on OnlyFans?
No.
You need to think about it.
I did. I've already thought about that.
Now, when you answer that question, did you answer that question from going OnlyFans as a subscriber, or going OnlyFans as a participant, somebody who's working OnlyFans?
Both.
You wouldn't?
No, neither.
Right. Say if you had to do minor things and you clear 5k a month.
Well,
for your fan base.
See, the problem with this question is OnlyFans is quite an open concept. I know what the primary use of the website is, but
do you?
Yeah, but I do know of because
keep going.
Because I know the primary use of the website because we've spoke about it on this podcast before. I think we spoke about this. I have actually been approached to do a shoot like this before on OnlyFans, so I know what the primary use of the website is. But there are other people who use it. I do actually know photographers who use OnlyFans for their photography business, but not related to any kind of explicit images. It's just of their photography business. So if you're talking about it from that standpoint, then obviously I would use a website where you could pay a subscription to see my photographs of professional work that's in a non-explicit manner. If that makes sense.
So, yeah, it does. So, when you were offered to work on OnlyFans, in what capacity was that in?
It was like pornographic material, and I declined.
So you to be on it doing stuff for people?
No, I'd be filming it.
What would you be filming, men or women?
I didn't get that far in.
So how was the approach made?
It was just via an online form on my website. They just filled in the contact form as any other client would do, and they sent me a quick brief of the job. And it was very sort of cloak and dagger from what I could see. There was not much description of what it would be, that it would be like pornography, and that was it. It didn't really go into too much detail. They wanted you to reach out to see if you'd be up for filming it first before they elaborated on a lot of things. I didn't let it get past that stage anyway.
Did they talk about money at all? Financials?
They said it was high paying, but that could mean anything.
Would there have been an amount what could have caught your eye?
It's hard to say because I think a lot of people do have their price. I like to think I would stick to my guns, and morally I don't want to film things like that. I'm not inclined to do stuff like that, so I like to think that I wouldn't do that. But I don't know, if someone said 50 grand, who knows what you would do.
Absolutely. Right now, the reason why I brought this up in discussion, no, I'm not going on OnlyFans. That's ridiculous. And I've not actually been offered to shoot OnlyFans like you have. But what has come my way and what I've been doing this week is I've been filming a documentary as the DOP for a company. And it's about the dark side of OnlyFans. So it's quite interesting, and that's taken me around the UK, predominantly on the edge of London and then into the centre of Manchester. And I've been, for want of a better word, I've been exposed to different stories, different experiences, and different people who participate as the... What is the word? As a person who's the worker? I don't know what the word is.
I think you call them like a model.
Talent. All right. We'll call them talent. That and they've all got all the talent. Have got different stories, all different ages, come from different backgrounds. So this is obviously, like I said, exploring the dark side of OnlyFans, avoiding the glamour of making lots of money and having a really nice lifestyle of doing what you want to do, and you just have to kind of contribute X amount of pictures or videos to your clients and you'll make lots of money. Away from that, and on the flip side of it, looking at all the all the issues that people could face from it. And so I am in the middle of a new documentary, and that's the topic.
How are you finding the topic yourself as the filmmaker going into it?
Oh, that's a good question. How am I finding it? A little sad. And I don't mean that in a kind of sarcastic or pedantic way. I mean it in its literal term. I think I wouldn't describe it as a pattern, but sometimes there's the similarities that the different talent have. And without giving too much away, because this documentary, I think it's going to make its way to Amazon Prime, as I've been told. If it does or doesn't, I don't know. But that's what I've been told. But the similarities in the stories of the talent, they're not positive stories. They're stories of quite severe negativity, what's happened to them at different points in their life. And I'm not saying that's why they're on OnlyFans, but I'm saying there is similarities in their stories, and that kind of makes me sad that people have been through something like that.
And are you talking about the talent there, or are you talking about the people who are using the app?
Just a talent. There's been nobody on the documentary, unless you expand it, but so far there's been nobody who've recorded on the other side of it, who is actually the person with the subscription of it. I find that quite interesting as well, because if that individual who's subscribing just wanted graphic content, there's ways of getting it for free, let's be honest.
So what do you think from making this documentary? What do you think the jump is for people to go from the free stuff to the stuff on there? Why would you pay for it when you could get it for free?
The only thing I can think of, they're looking for more than just graphic content. They're looking for a connection, potential relationship. So hypothetically, you could have people in the real world who may struggle to formulate relationships and commitment and anything meaningful, for whatever reason that might be, whether it's their own personal appearance or whether it's confidence or lack of communication. And they go onto this website, and then they can literally scroll through and pick what they believe is their ideal fantasy person, male or female. And through their bank account and their wallet, they can then facilitate a relationship with the talent on the other side of it. And what they're getting from it, I'm not saying there's no gratification in it, because I imagine there will be, but I also, at the crux of it, I think they're getting what they're missing in their life, what most of us, to most of us is a necessity, which is kind of having this meaningful relationship with a significant other.
So, what way does it work? Are these people, do they pay like the subscription and they can talk to people who are on the app, or do they have to pay them after they do that? What way does that work?
I think there's different ways from what I can gather. I think some people, they'll pay for a bundle. They'll pay for could be text communication. It can be photography. It could be videos. It could be whatever. But I think there's different ways of doing it, and depending on the popularity and the pricing, it could be anything. So it could be relatively affordable, or it could be the opposite, where the people are spending an absolute fortune just to keep this relationship up. And it's, I don't know, it just feels a little sad. It just feels a bit sad, because like the internet's a very interesting place, and it's got so many positives to it. But for every positive you let in the door, you could argue there's also an opposing negative. And whereas the internet has allowed people to foster meaningful relationships with one another through online dating or through whatever means, Facebook even, at the same time it's cultivated other kind of areas of relationship, what have come to light, and I believe OnlyFans sits in that bracket, where now we've got different kinds of relationships, pretty frequent, and they can exist because of a platform like OnlyFans.
So, what have you interviewed the talent, and have you been a part of that what kind of sense do you get for the motivations for the people who are on there? Why are they on there?
Well, I don't interview them. I'm just the DOP, so I'm just doing the camera ops, and I'm also doing the audio actually, and the lighting. I'm not asking the questions. That's one of the producers, but I'm obviously in the room as it goes down. The motivation, I think it has to be financial, doesn't it? Because if you take that element away, would they still do it?
And is it primarily sexually orientated charged conversations that these people are describing on there, or is there any kind of, are you seeing more people just trying to form genuine relationships, more like you're speaking to, say, a girlfriend that you pay for?
I think that it's I think it all blends into one. I think it does. I think it all blends into one where as with a lot of relationships, when they go, if you meet a significant other, you're a married man, you know. You do have that connection with someone, but there's also, you know, you hope with a marriage or with any kind of significant relationship, things do go down that road, don't they? And they become intimate somewhere down the line. And you do want that, as because you know you've developed relationships and developed feelings for your significant other, and I think it's following that kind of path, but at the same time, it's not actually real, and the talent isn't falling for a developing. From my understanding, they're not really developing any meaningful feelings for the other person on the other end. What they're developing is an opportunity to earn money.
Well, let me tell you where my brain goes with stuff like this. I think if you're the person who's on the other end of this, making the transaction with these people who are on the app, my brain goes straight to the logistics of it, and like this has got a date attached to it. Like, surely you can't keep funding this forever, or you will get bored for this, because it's not going to progress beyond a certain point. And that, like, say for example, with my relationship with my wife progresses all the time and stuff, and like it just can't progress in that way, because it's always going to be this online relationship and stuff. So the girls or the people who are involved in it, the people who are on the other end who are creating the content and stuff, do they ever think about, are they using tactics to keep these people interested and engaged over the long period of time?
I don't know. The documentary is obviously exploring the dark side of it, but it was very much from the perspective of the things that the talent have been through, not necessarily the customers. We'll call them customers. I don't know what the proper terminology is.
Clients.
It was more about the things that they've been through. Clients, yeah, if you want. It's more about what they've been through, rather than on the flip side of it and looking at the people who are paying the subscriptions of it. But you're talking about it's not going to progress. It might not need to. I don't know if it has to progress in order for somebody to keep paying. I think they become that infatuated by the person who they're talking to and paying for. They're willing to keep paying just to keep that communication up, because they don't want to lose them, because they then fill that role in their life of a significant other. But realistically, they're not a significant other. They're somebody who they're paying for.
No, that makes sense. I'm just talking about from my perspective. Like, for me, that's where I would struggle, and I struggle to understand their thinking and stuff. So, from the perspective of the talent, then what struggles are they going through? What did you find out?
Well, I don't give too much away. But not all of them are making a lot of money. Some of them, in fact, are making next to nothing. There's people can leak the imagery. People can find out where they live, and it can become harassment or stalking or worse. It can be a very dark area, and then if you do it for a certain period of time, but that content is online and always out there, as you move forward in your life, and even if you leave something like OnlyFans or whatever, if that content gets leaked, then you meet a significant other. You have kids. There's always that chance that footage is going to come back and haunt you.
That was my first thought. Was if you particularly if you have children, you don't really want them to be seeing images like that, or know that you're involved and stuff like that, because that can create embarrassment for the kids when they're at school, or it can manifest in a few different ways.
Yeah, it can, and you know what? These a lot of the talent that are doing it, they're also in situations themselves what have led them to that place, and they might be in that place for that time being, and as they get older, they don't want to do it anymore. They don't deserve horrible comeback. It's just it's their work. They don't deserve the scrutiny or their imagery passed around, just as nobody does. If anybody sends anything graphic to somebody else, often it's probably not a good idea because there's always that chance that it could become airborne. But yeah, certain decisions that take place in someone's life, say when they're in their early 20s, can still affect them when when they're in their early 30s or later, and who knows for how long that negative impact can loom over their heads, because you just don't know what's going to happen with that content.
Again, it's like we were saying before with the internet and stuff, and there's been some really great things that have come out of it, but this is unfortunately one of the dark sides of it, where if you do open yourself up and you put yourself out there to the world, you've got to realise that it is sort of out there forever. There's no clawing it back in.
No. You always say when the genie's out the bottle, it's done. But what that does is, and the fact that we're talking about it right now, it does mean there's a lot of meat on the bone for a documentary. And I think one of the best things about our job is we are then put into different environments, and we're put in different situations where we're exposed to different things. What we wouldn't be in an everyday life, we wouldn't gravitate to that, but we wouldn't learn about it. But in a lot of other things that I've done through documentaries, like with Strongmen or whatever, I've learnt a lot and understood far more than what I'd ever do about a particular subject area, because I'm pushed into it for work. Where normally, in terms of my everyday kind of hobbies or interests, I wouldn't gravitate towards something like that. So as well as work becoming a meaningful way to earn money and explore your creativity, you find yourself speaking to experts and interesting people in areas that you would never expect to find yourself in.
I find the same with weddings, specifically with these Sikh weddings, these Indian weddings that I'm doing. I get to be around these people and I get to experience their culture in a very intimate way that most of the people of my background and culture wouldn't get to experience, because I go into their houses of the morning where they're getting ready, and I see them interacting with each other as a family, and because of the nature of the way that I film and what I do, I sort of blend into the background, so you get to observe these people as they would be. You know what I mean? So you're not directing them too much. You're just sort of filming in the background. They do forget that you're there after a while, and you see these love moments between mother and son and things like that. And I think I am quite privileged to be able to get to see stuff like that. And it's not just from Indian weddings. I get to see it with, say, Jewish weddings or with Chinese weddings and things like that. And I don't think most people of my age and background would get to experience and see stuff like that. And I think it's good for you as well to see that there is another world, a whole world out there of different ideas and ways of thinking.
It is, because you're getting exposed to their culture and you're getting exposed to a very powerful event, what takes place, a ceremony which exists within their culture. And they'll have different traditions, different ways of doing things than what we understand of a wedding or a wedding ceremony. I'm trying to think. To this day, I've never experienced any wedding that is of my own culture.
I think that's one of the biggest selling points for becoming a videographer, becoming a video production company owner, something like that, anything like that. It's just you get to be exposed to different ideas and different people who don't necessarily think the same as you. And I think it's good to expose yourself to opposing ideas and stuff, and having to, say, compromise on, like we were talking about a few weeks ago when I was saying I was doing this pitch. I've had to give in and compromise on a few different points and stuff because we're not seeing eye to eye on certain things where I think this will work with the video, and they're saying they're coming at it from a different point of view where they're much more information heavy and much more visually driven, and it's whittling away trying to figure out what's the best compromise for our two goals, so it can really enrich you as a person as well as enrich your business to be a part of those sort of conversations and be in those circles.
Yeah, I agree, and the more different situations that you find yourself in, what the work has brought you to that situation, because you wouldn't bring yourself to that situation. It's only going to develop and expand who you are and give you a broader understanding of everything, really. So of course, we do it for money, but the added bonus is to get these worldly experiences that you wouldn't get, especially like you're doing it with weddings, but could be documentaries, and you meet a whole range of different characters, and you're exposed to things that can change your perspective on what your thinking is. And anything like that is only going to develop and enrich you as a person. And speaking of developing and enriching as a person, is that some kind of what are you wearing?
So this is a t-shirt from Thailand that I bought from Bangkok, and there's elephants on there and stuff. It's I've heard it's what a lot of people wear over there. It looked, at the time, there wasn't a particularly cultural motivator for me buying this. I was very hot. It was like 38 degrees there or something. I asked some people like what the locals usually wear to alleviate the heat a little bit, and someone pointed me in the direction of this t-shirt. So decided to wear it.
Looks like a shirt.
Yeah, it is.
Looks like a shirt.
It is. It's very breathable though. It's good for like hot weather. So I wouldn't recommend you pick one up, but it is pretty good if you've got heat.
Have we spoke about your travels?
I don't actually think we have.
So obviously, being freelance like you are, it gives you the flexibility to do things because you're not working in a regimented job where you have only X amount of holidays, what you agreed to in that contract, and you took advantage of that. So why don't you let people know then about your travels?
So just for context, I moved to Canada in 2022. We did 12 months there. Then I came home for 2 months, and then we decided to have 2 months where we travelled Asia. We went all around, mainly South and East Asia. Just because at the time, I think with all of these business goals and stuff, it's good to have 5 and 10 year plans in your head. And I've always operated on those kinds of bases. And the trip to Asia came up because we decided that at some point in the near future, we've got a plan to buy a house over here and get citizenship and do all that stuff. And before we get into that and start having kids and doing all that, we wanted to get our big trip out of the way, and that was our excuse to go and do that big trip. We've always wanted to go to East Asia, so I decided to do that. And me being me, I decided to add a few business affairs along the way because I can't really help myself. So what I did was I decided to advertise a little bit on Facebook and on Instagram for some couple shoots. Just so, I only had one camera with me at the time, just for my own travels and stuff. So I thought I can't really do video because I haven't got a gimbal or lights or setup for that. But I can do some photography. So I got a couple of shoots in Thailand and Bali while we were out there. And
that's really good. What camera did you take with you? Which camera was it?
It was either going to be the A7S III or the A7 IV. And I decided on the A7 IV because it can do photography and video. Because I'll link this below as well in the description. We did I think it ended up being like a 3 hour long video of the whole trip. Where it wasn't really made for most people to watch. It was kind of made for me and my family to watch. So it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's a nice memory for us to look back on. And I also learned a lot about shooting in very hot and humid conditions. So that was useful to learn. But it's a nice sort of, while we're on this subject of cultural experience, it's nice to go and experience other things and be very grateful for what you have. We especially found this when we went to India and we saw some of the abject poverty that people were living in. And it puts into perspective the frustrations and the daily grind that we go through. It is absolutely nothing compared to what some people are going through, and I think it's always good to be grateful for where we were born and what we have and stuff. Because, like, for example, I was moaning to you just before we started about trying to get my website as fast as possible and stuff, and then puts it into perspective when you're thinking some people are out there just trying to eat and just trying to stay fit and healthy. So it's always good to reflect on that as well.
Absolutely. We get lost in ourselves and are lost in our worlds, and all of a sudden we feel like it's the end of the world, and it can be the slightest thing. And you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you, there's no illnesses, your family's healthy. You might have just had a setback for that day, but when you go to bed that night in your comfy bed, in your central heated house with a full belly because you've just eaten, and everybody's safe and sound with locks on the doors and you live in a nice environment, it's pretty sweet, really. But yeah, you're right, we forget about that. Before we go on to that, you brought the A7 IV, and there has been a lot of questioning of the A7 IV and A7S III about the fact that it doesn't have a built-in fan like the FX series And obviously the built-in fan is to help it cool down so it can be used in super hot climates. Did you find any issue with it when you were shooting in like 38 degrees Celsius kind of heat over 100 degree Fahrenheit?
I didn't have any issues. I was using it for I think I had the A7 IV filming for I did quite a few time lapses with it. With the A7 IV that were a couple of hours long, and it was like most places we went to, it was between 35 and 40 degrees most days. It was very humid. I didn't have it overheat once. It got quite hot, but it never got to the point where I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to put this away for a bit. It did manage to pull through, and it was particularly good as well if we had any rain. We didn't have any issues with because they are weather sealed as well, so we didn't have any issues with rain as well. A pretty tough camera. I can't speak for the A7S III because I've only tested it a couple of times in heat, but the A7 IV at least was absolutely fine, no issues.
That is something that, because a lot of people do. I suppose it's if it's in direct heat, or I don't know. Obviously, I live in the UK, and I've got FX cameras. So looking at the weather over here, I don't actually need them, do I? Because it never gets hot.
Well,
it never gets hot.
I think I sent you a video before, didn't I? We're getting a heat wave here next week, so we're going to be getting like 40-degree heat. I'm due to be filming 2 full-day events in that, 2 Indian weddings, which are 12 hours each. So maybe, I think it'll be in 2 weeks, I'll be able to talk on this podcast about just how well the A7 III will hold up in 40-degree heat.
Yeah, because people have knocked it and said it's not a camera for especially hot weather. I don't know what it's like in cold weather, like extreme cold, but I think hot weather, especially where you are, and certainly in parts of America, it can get particularly hot, especially in summertime. So on this trip that you went to, where was your favourite place?
Bali, hands down. It was Bali's very nice. It's very scenic. The people are very nice. The food is very unusual. The kinds of food that you get there, like chicken, a lot of like peanut chicken, stuff like that. I hadn't tried a lot of Balinese food or Indonesian food before I went there. Highly recommend it. And it was
peanut chicken, like satay.
Yeah, like that.
Get that, my local chippy.
I don't know if it's the same as what you get over there, but it is very, very unusual. A lot of the food that I ate over there, at least for me anyway. I hadn't tried a lot of it, but like I think most people know what Chinese food's going to taste like, or what Thai food's going to taste like, Vietnamese food like banh mi, stuff like that. But Indonesian food, I'd just not come across it that much in my life, and it was very nice to have. The scenery is unbelievable. Do you know each house in Bali, I was told by my guide, has a temple. Every house where the family worships, and it's not like a little tiny thing either. It's like it's a decent size place of worship, and every single house had one. All the buildings were very nice, and they have like these little tiny leaves that are like wrapped with like these spices inside the leaves, I think it was, and they leave them on the doorstep of each house each morning. It's like a gift to the gods each day they do, because I don't know if you knew, but the Balinese are actually Hindu.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, actually, I genuinely did know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Is it a poor country?
Yeah, it is. I think the economy is doing better because of a lot of the tourism that's being attracted to Bali now. It's quite a popular spot for people to go to. We stayed in a place called Ubud, and it's not the poorest place in Asia that we went to, but it was on the lower economic spectrum, I would say.
Did you feel safe?
Yeah, I felt safe. Didn't feel unsafe at all. Actually in South Asia that we went to, the only place I didn't feel safe was India. Everywhere else, I didn't feel unsafe at all.
Why did you feel unsafe in India?
I think, in retrospect, looking back on it, I don't think it was. I don't think we were ever in danger whilst we were there. It's just India's very full on when you go there. The people are very. Someone described it the best when they said that everyone's in a rush, but everyone's late to everything, and that's what it felt like. It was people are very in your face, and you stand out a lot. At least I stood out quite a bit. So you've got people who are constantly like we had people who would walk up beside us, and they would walk with us for like 5-10 minutes and pretend to be your friend, and then they try and lure you into like an alleyway. things like that. Like, just come down here and let me show you this hotel that I'd recommend and stuff. And they'd be very insistent that you come with them. And
what are they going to do to you? What are they going to do to you?
I read online later you could get robbed. You could get taken to a hotel where they're gonna where say for example, like a hotel fee would be like 2,000 rupees a night. They try and charge you like 8,000 rupees a night, something like that. A lot of people, like even taxi drivers, I would get into the taxi, and the taxi driver would tell me that my hotel closed 20 years ago, and then I'd have to insist to the taxi driver that I still want to go to this place, and he'd be like, no, it's closed, and I'd be like, no, I still want to go to that address. And then he'd take you there, and obviously your hotel's not closed. And then he'd just drive off frustrated. Things like that would happen.
So what did he say when like you arrived there and you went like, it's clearly not closed?
He wouldn't pretend to he wouldn't
acknowledge it?
Yeah, he wouldn't acknowledge it. You just get out and leave.
God, that's like, it's such a scam that, because quite a few people, especially if you jet lag, you're tired, you're unsure of yourself because you're in a new location.
Yeah.
Then they hear that, they'll just panic. Then obviously it's like, oh, don't go there. Well, it's all right, don't worry about it, because even though your hotel closed 20 years ago, I've got a place for you to stay.
Yeah, exactly. So they create that urgency, and we had a moment where it was where we felt quite unsafe, where we went from, it's quite a popular route, we went from Delhi to Agra, and for anyone who doesn't know, Agra is where the Taj Mahal is. So you go, it's like a 8-hour train journey from Delhi to Agra. On the map, it doesn't look that far, but India is a huge country, so it takes a while to get there. So we went to the train station. When we got there, it's very confusing if you're a foreigner and you don't know what to do. But it's very difficult to find out whether your train's delayed, because the Indian website, like the railway website, didn't work properly, and our train ended up being delayed by 5 hours. So we checked out of our hotel. There was nowhere really to go. We found a cafe with no Wi-Fi, but I had some data on my phone. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I was using a mobile provider from the UK, and I'd paid for abroad data, like international roaming. Now, what I would advise people to do is get an Indian SIM or get a SIM in the country that you're in. We didn't do this. So I just thought I'd get the international data. It's just easier. It only works in Delhi and Mumbai. The data, it didn't work outside of those two cities. So as soon as we got on that train 5 hours later and we pulled out of the station and left Delhi, my internet went off for the rest of the time that we were in India until we got back to Delhi. So I was panicking, thinking that why is my phone data not working? Because I didn't know this at the time and I couldn't look it up because I had no data. So we were sat on the train going down. Everyone on the train they would walk past us where we were sitting in our seats, and they'd walk past and then stop and just stare at you and stand over you and just like look down and just stand there and just stare at you. But for us, as being from the West, that's quite a threatening, unusual thing to do. But I did look into this, and it's a lot more like casual and normal there to just stare at other people. So we found this all over India. People would just look at you and look you up and down and stuff, and to them it's just normal. But for us, it felt quite threatening. So we were on this train. The Indian army was on the train as well. Just these 3 guys who were Indian soldiers just sat around us, and they were eating this. They bought like a curry meal, like a takeaway sort of thing in a box, and they ate it all and finished it. And as soon as they finished, they passed the plate to this guy who sat by the window. The guy opened the window and just shoved the boxes straight out the window onto the tracks. And whilst the train's moving and stuff, me and Emily just sat there just like, whoa, I can't believe like he's just done that. Like, you get done for that home. But he did that. So this is the point that I'm getting to. We got to Agra. It's like 11 o'clock at night. We have no data. We didn't really trust. We started getting Ubers because we didn't really trust the local taxi drivers to take us to the right places. Because if you're on Uber, they have like a whole system on there for if you get like abducted and stuff, it can track where your phone is and you can call for help and stuff. So we were trying to stick with Uber. I had to try and connect to the internet in the train station in Agra, and it just wouldn't like connect. And then it like connected for like a minute, and I managed to call an Uber, and then it went off again. So I'd called the Uber, and we had to walk around outside the station just looking for this Uber because I'd screenshotted the license plate, and by some like everything sort of aligned. By some miracle, I managed to find the Uber guy, and I got in the taxi and stuff, and we went towards our hotel. But another thing what they do as well is on like say a website like booking.com, they don't always put the right address in Google because they don't trust people on Google for some reason. And this is another thing I found out anecdotally from other people. So the taxi driver took us to the wrong place because he was just following Google Maps, And then they had to speak to each other for about 20 minutes on the phone whilst they verified who I was, and then they gave him the correct address, which is another like half an hour away. It was crazy.
That is crazy. What a strange way of doing things.
Yeah.
God, yeah. I've never been to that part of the world, but that'd be so intimidating and so worrying, especially if you're out there with your wife and you're thinking, you must have had some moments where you must have thought, at least for like a split second, like, I'd love to be at home right now.
Oh yeah, that was one of those. But it was, like I said before, it was much more intimidating and frightening when we were actually in it. Now that I look back on it, I don't think we were ever unsafe. But I just think when you're tired and you just want to go to sleep and you're freezing, because people be surprised by this, it was cold. It was so cold when we were there. We stupidly, we didn't check the weather before we went, and we went in January. And we had to wear all of our clothes that we had in our bags because we were that cold. And you could breathe out and see your own breath in the hotel room because there was a big gap in the window as well, and there was no hot water anywhere. So you'd get out the shower and you'd be shivering because it was that bad.
Yeah, you just I don't know why, but we just kind of like I just assume India's a warm country.
In the summer, yeah, I think at the minute it's like 43 or 44 in Delhi. I had a look before.
You get seasons.
But
probably get seasons. They probably, unlike what we do in England, we get a season which is winter.
Well, their winter, it's not as bad as the UK. It's like, I think when we were there, it got to like between 6 and 10. But it was it was between 6 and 10. But the thing is, we were there in summer clothes, so that's why it was that much worse. It would have been, if I had a jacket, it would have been fine. But
yeah, jacket and a pair of jeans. I'm
also glad that we didn't bring our summer clothes because we were only in India for about 10 days. And for the rest of the 2.5 months we were out there, we were in weather that was plus 30. So it would have been pointless carrying around big heavy coats or jackets for the rest of the holiday.
So when you worked there, obviously you managed to get some work out. This is super impressive, by the way, over there. Did you have to adjust your prices to reflect the economy?
It depends. Usually, I didn't because I was working for Western people who were out there on holiday. But if if you're working in the local economy, then yeah, you would do.
So what happened? How did you get these people? How did you get this work?
Just through Instagram advertising and Meta ads. So you can run ads quite cheaply on there. So I only paid like $5. So you go on there, you put in your keywords that you want to advertise for. You make a little quick advert on something like Canva. So say if you're doing mini shoots, what you would do is you go into Canva, you would write out some copy on there that says like offering mini shoots, whatever beach it is or whatever location it is, and then you would have the like the dates that you're offering it on. You'd have who you are, and you'd have the price, and then you just stick that on there, and then you can run it as an advert. It doesn't have to go near your Instagram grid either, and then you'll just send them to either an online form that they can fill in, which is a bit cheaper, or you can send them to a website landing page.
That's good, actually. So you managed to actually earn a bit of money on your travels as well.
Yeah, so it just kept us going a little bit more.
So when you came back, did you feel satisfied? Are you like craving to travel more?
I don't think I'll ever satisfy that urge, to be honest. There's always somewhere new that I look for. There's always another thing or another place that I want to go and see. My latest one that I want to go and do is Mount Rainier in Washington State, which is about, it's the other side of Seattle, so I think it's about 3.5 hours south of here. So I want to do Mount Rainier. What about you?
What is Mount Rainier first? Before, what is it?
It's a
mountain, but what especially is it? What draws you to it?
It's absolutely massive. I think it's like 4,600 meters. So it's just over half the size of Mount Everest. It's in Washington State. It's a volcano. I believe it's a volcano. And I remember that this is the reason I wanted to go and see it. I've always known that it's there, but I was flying back from California back in November, and we actually flew over Mount Rainier. I remember looking at it from the window of the plane and thinking, "Oh my God, that looks incredible." And then I've been looking into it a lot more ever since, and it looks pretty cool. So I want to go and have a hike around it and see what it's all about.
That's impressive. I'd love to go to. Well, first I'd love to go Far East. I've never experienced anything like that. The first I've been is the Middle East, which is like Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So I'd love to go Far East and experience some of the culture over there. Some of the places what you named actually in your travels. I'd love to go to Australia as well. It's a place I've always wanted to go to, but I know it's quite westernized, so it's you're not going to get the same kind of depth of culture because a lot of it will be quite similar to what we get in the UK. But also as well, I have been to Canada, but I'd like to come to the West Coast of Canada where you are as well and see Vancouver and see numerous places around there because I know it's a beautiful country and there's lots to see. So I've got quite a few places and whether it's for pleasure or whether it's for work, I hope one day that I manage to get out there and see them places. And again, linking it back to videography, as well as it giving you new experiences, it can take you to places where you never expect it. I've been to Columbus, Ohio filming. There is no reason otherwise why I would go to Ohio, especially Columbus, Ohio. So, yeah, I've been to Daytona Beach in Florida. I would potentially go to Florida on a holiday at some point, but I don't think I go to Daytona. But because of work, I managed to get to go there. So it does, and obviously with you shooting weddings, there'll be lots of places where you've popped up, which you probably didn't even know existed before you went there.
Yeah, there's a place called McBride that I went to a couple of weeks ago, about 13 hours drive north of here, and some of the things that we saw, it's not like a touristy place whatsoever. The whole town, I think, only has like 300 people in it, and apparently this is what one of the people told me at the wedding, that there's more people coming to the wedding than there is inhabiting the town itself. So I thought that was quite interesting. It was a stereotypical. Have you ever played the game Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It looked like it was straight up out of that. There's like the town like ale house, and then there's like the railroad that comes into the town and stuff, and there's the Best Western and the gas station. You know what I mean? It was just that kind of frontier kind of vibe.
That sounds cool, though. Again, it's an experience, isn't it? It's a place, a different environment that's very different than Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're from?
Yeah, when I think of where I've come from and the places that I've been to, it's so... You do have to, you have to kick that imposter syndrome because that does creep up quite a lot where you think, like, what am I doing here? How did I manage to get to this situation?
Oh yeah, and you just have to thank your lucky stars, and then for all the times that where things don't go your way and rejections or issues that you have or confrontations and things that you think I can't do this anymore. You got to think of all the good times as well and balance it out. Stay as even keel as you possibly can and just enjoy the good times and try not let the bad times get on top of you too much, because they can obviously we quite. In previous episodes, we have harped on about the negatives that the jobs bring and the issues that we face, and there's a lot of goodness in that as well. Because if you're out there and you're listening, you might find some kind of connection with what we're going through, and actually find it comforting knowing that you're not the only one. That other people are also going through the same hardships. But at the same time as well, it's also good to celebrate the job and highlight all the good things that we've done from experiences and travel. And this episode's been good because we've not necessarily focused on technology or cameras or different, well, apart from when I started with the OnlyFans comment, jobs itself, we've explored the other facets of what life is like in this job.
No, I would, I'd agree with that. I think it does just take you to so many cool, amazing, interesting places, and I think I had a good moment a few weeks ago when I was driving back from a job, and I was and the sun's just shining and you're just driving home and you're just thinking like, I can't believe like I've just actually gone and like someone's actually paid me to go and film this, and like you're so lucky to be able to get to do what you love, and you get to do like filming. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to me that there is an actual career in that. And I remember thinking when originally I was going to do this, and like telling your family that you're going to go to college and just do filmmaking, and people kind of go, is there really any money in that? Is there really a job in that? You know what I mean? And it's all those things, and you have to sort of, no, I think I can do this. You have to sort of push that all away, and then you get to do what you want to do.
Absolutely. And there at times in education or with parents there's a disconnect, so they don't necessarily foresee where the money is. And I always say to people, if you name me any company, you name me any brand, any product, the reason is because you've been exposed to it through the marketing, and a lot of the marketing has video production. So it's not just about go working in a media house, production company or anything like that. It's about anything. Like I've worked with supplement companies, I've worked with what can I didn't know actually say. Actually, I work with major brands in different ways. Most of my work in the corporate side of things isn't with a media house. It is with a company that wants a solution to whatever problem is, and usually it's exposing themselves. That sounds bad saying we've talked about OnlyFans today, but getting that kind of exposure that they need to showcase their product or their business, and they're doing that through video. So there's an absolute multitude and whole range of different opportunities within video production if you work hard and you look at it, and build a good rapport with these individuals.
No, I totally get that, and we keep talking about this, about how important it is to have that rapport and be like a guy who's easy to get along with. And I think this is something that people do neglect within the businesses. They can, like, I think I was like this, where you get really good at the technical and you get good at the filmmaking and the actual implementation of the techniques, but then you neglect being a businessman and wearing different hats and stuff. And you've got to be a negotiator, you've got to be a salesman, you've got to be good to talk to, you've got to be friendly, reliable, consistent. You've got to do all these other things. So I think these things are just as important as being the guy who can get the job done to a high standard.
Absolutely. And as we come to wrapping this up for another week, for next week, there's one thing that I want to talk about, which is the industry from a different perspective. This is a true story. This is a very good friend of mine. He works for a production house down south, and his company's gone into. It's not his company. He works for the company. That company's going into liquidation, so he's losing his job. I had a conversation with him a couple of days ago. I won't mention any names or anything. I don't want to do that. But he said that the motto of his company was make it to 2025. Survive to 25 was the actual lingo they were using, and they didn't do that. And then I spoke to him, and he's seriously thinking about looking at potentially moving over to a different industry and leaving TV, because he believes the future is quite bleak. So I want to explore that and explore the different factors, what's making it bleak, and if it's just his company or if there's a bit of a downward spiral now, if the industry's changing a lot.
Okay, so we'll save that. We'll save that for next week. I was about to start.
Yeah, that's what I mean. For next week. Yeah. Save it for next week, because obviously we talk about different types of employment. We're both freelance, but there's a lot of people who work in the industry who aren't freelance, who have a 9-to-5, a structured employment within the industry. But there's been a lot of movements in the industry, a lot of it post-COVID as well, and a lot of it isn't good. And obviously he's on the receiving end of that right now. So it'd be interesting to look at that and look at different kind of employment structures and what changes are going on in the industry.
I think that would be good to pair from the perspective as us from the business owners as well. I think it'd be good to speak about hiring people, because I've hired a good few people in the past and stuff, and I've hired people on long-term basis and short-term basis. Maybe talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of it, and quite specifically, I'd like to talk about filling in gaps that you're not good at. Finding what your holes are as a business owner, and what, not even what your holes are, what you don't like doing, and potentially outsourcing that to other people who would be more interested and more willing and capable to do that, so you can focus on the stuff that you want to do. So we could pair those things together.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up. I think it's gone full circle from talking about OnlyFans to you finally finding your holes.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. And on that note, Tom, another great episode. I'll give it a 2 thumbs up, one for me, one for you. And I will see you next week.
See you next week, David.